guys, welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and thanks a lot for coming by the channel and hanging with me a little bit. And we're going to be talking about everything, and I do mean everything you need to know about fishing in the rain, which is some of the best fishing you're going to have, guys. If you want to have some great bass fishing, and if you want to get good as a bass angler, you have got to understand and know how to fish when it's raining. And there's a lot to it, guys. Fishing in the rain, there is so much complexity to it based upon the water clarity, time of year, water temperature, the mood and the personality of the fish. We're going to dig into that, guys. It's a pretty complex topic, and I definitely think I know it's going to help you guys catch some more fish after you hear this video here. Also, guys, we've got two quick things I'd like to cover before we get into. You've been hearing me talk a lot about Bridgeford products. Guys, here's another one they make. This is the Bridgeford Pepperoni Snack Sticks, guys. These are freaking addictive. I'm telling you, if you like pepperoni, you like meat snacks, guys, the next time you're in Walmart or your favorite grocery store, guys, check them out, the Bridgeford Pepperoni Snack Sticks. Awesome product, awesome quality, tasty. You will not be able to put them down. On top of that, guys, there is not another company in the world that supports the sport of bass fishing like Bridgeford Foods. They are a friend of bass anglers, they're a friend of bass fishing, so support a company that definitely supports our sport we love. And one other thing, guys, we've only got 3 days left. You've heard me talking about this. 3 days left in the sale on this Cast King ALTI bait cast reel. This is the one that's pretty much impossible to backlash because of this halo vortex braking system. Once you learn how to set it, you can pretty much cast it most of the time unless you just cast it super hard without even thumbing it. This is like the first reel I've ever seen to do that. It's the only reel made that has an all titanium spool, 11 ball bearings and thing, smooth as butter, built for stout, guys. 10% off right now until the end of the month, plus another 10% if you use my promo code Randy10, so you can get it at 20% off for the next 3 days. And for guys, that puts this reel under $200. You will never find a bait cast reel of this quality here for under $200. So I'll have the Cast King link in the description of this video if you guys would like to get one. Okay, guys, fishing in the rain. I always go back to this. Like, a lot of you guys have heard of Charlie Campbell, Ozark legend, Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Charlie was one of the guys that made the Zara Spook famous. And I remember him telling me years ago, it's like, Randy, if you can't catch fish in the rain, it's time to hang up your rod. And what Charlie was talking about is how rain activates the fish, which is sort of an oversimplification. I love Charlie and everything, but there's a lot more to it that I want to dig into. Now, this is going to be a pretty detailed video because rain is a pretty complex topic because there's so much to it. Now, when you're talking about rain, there's a lot of variables that determine how it affects the fish and the techniques you want to fish, because a lot of times it's like when you're talking about rain, are you talking about just a few sprinkles? Are you talking about misty rain? Are you talking about a light rain, a moderate rain, a heavy rain, downpour, anything like that? So you have different intensities of rain, and all those intensities will affect the fish differently. On top of that, you have got to always, and this is the primary thing about fishing in the rain, you always have to consider the water visibility and the water temperature in correlation with the rain and the intensity of that rain. So there's a lot to factor in about how beneficial it's going to be or how not beneficial it's going to be. Most of the time, if you had a graph and you talked about fishing in a rainy day versus like a regular day, the amount of bass that you catch when it's raining is going to be far more than just a traditional day, because rain, what it does, it creates a low light situation, and bass are low light feeders. For the most part. I mean, they're opportunistic feeders, but they get a lot more active in low light conditions. So rain sort of acts as a low light condition for the fish. And there's probably some other variables that I don't understand with the fish that, make them bite a little bit better when it's raining under the right conditions. But more times than not, the fish get active in the rain. Not all the time. Sometimes the rain will shut them down too. So I sort of want to cover the whole gamut as far as how rain affects fish. Probably the best way to do that, let's just go through the seasons as far as water temperature and time of year, talk about the impact that rain has on it. Now, before we get into this, I'm gonna make the statement as far as the best type of rain to fish in for the most part is what I call sort of a light to moderate rain. It's like if you've got sort of a misty type rain, you know, that can be good too, but just a light rain that is not coming down real hard is probably the best rain to fish in. If it gets harder, the harder it rains, for some reason you can still catch them in that, but they don't quite bite as good in a hard rain. And obviously you're not going to have a hard rain for a long period of time during a day. Most of the time you can have a light rain, like a light on and off rain, like all day long. So more than not, you know, a light rain is going to be the best situation with that. And also you have wind to consider with, that'll determine the technique. But let's go through winter, spring, summer, fall. In the winter time of the year, one of the things that I have noticed is that bass will bite a little bit better in the winter time of year, but it does not change their position where they're at. Now, a lot of other times of the year we'll talk about, when it rains, the bass will move and they will make major changes as far as in the depth that they use and the cover that they use. Not so much in the winter time. If you have water temperatures that are like, say, under 50, in the 50 degree range or colder, which a lot of places in the wintertime have that, when you get a rainy day, and let's say, for example, that, you know, on a sunny day, these fish are sitting out in 35 or 40 foot of water off the end of a point, or they're suspended over some treetops, or they're sitting in a ditch or something like that, or they're on a bluff bank. If you have a rainy day after, you know, a sunny day, they're not really going to do anything different. I mean, they're going to be in those same positions. They're not going to move shallower to feed in that cooler water. But for the most part, I think they bite a little bit better. I mean, I fish a lot in the wintertime around here, and I can tell you, even in cold water, if the water temperature is 45 degrees, if it's, you know, raining or misty or even a heavy overcast, fishing's usually a little bit better. Not like a big, massive change, but just a little bit. Now, you start noticing something a little bit different as it gets into the early spring, when that water temperature starts to get into the 50s and 60s, this type of a zone. During this period, and I'm gonna go into the 70s too. Let's talk about the period where that water temperature is between like 55 and 70 degrees, that 15 degree range. This is the number one time of year, whether it is in the springtime of the year or the fall time of the year. When that water temperature is 55 to 70 degrees, it has the biggest impact on what the fish do and how they bite when it's raining. If you've got water temperature between 55 and 70 degrees, there is always fish move shallow under those conditions, you know, unless you have like, you know, muddy water or something like that. But if you've got water visibility of over about 2 foot in a lake you're fishing, when the water temperature is 55 to 70 degrees, you can count on the fact that on a rainy day, those fish are going to move. They're actually going to swim shallower and get more aggressive and bite. It's the number one water temperature window to take advantage of a rainy day. And when you have a rainy day like this, you always want, especially on like the first or second rainy day after it's been clear, you always want to put on your biggest aggressive reaction baits. This is when your big spinner baits are going to work good, your topwater lures, your swim baits, your larger crank baits, chatter baits, stuff like that. Fish are active, they're shallow, low light conditions, they make mistakes, they chase baits. It is the best situation to you know, fish in. And that within that water temperature window in the springtime of the year, let me break it up between like 55 to 60, you know, 60 to 65, 65 to 70. When you're fishing in water temperatures, and let's even say low 50s, say low 50s to around 60 degrees, guys, there's nothing better than spinnerbait. Even in 2026, as much as spinnerbaits have been fished forever, you know, the past 60 years, this is when they'll light up a spinnerbait, especially a larger spinnerbait, like a 3/4 ounce with a number 6 or 7 blade on it. Excellent choice. Larger crankbaits, like a big 3-inch square bill crankbait, a big full-size chatterbait, something like that is going to be really, really good under those conditions. Now, as the water temperature starts to get in that 60 to 65 degree zone in the springtime of the year, you're talking about a lot of the fish up shallow spawning in this situation. And when those fish are up shallow spawning, not all of them are actually spawning. There's a lot of fish that are up cruising, they're looking for beds, they may be garden fry, they may be building nests, they're just a lot of fish shallow. And if you've got water temperatures in that 60 to 65 degree range and it's raining, put you on a bright colored floating worm. A bright floating worm, or like a bright colored fluke, like a bubble gum or a pearl colored fluke, something like that, maybe even a glide bait. Something like that, fished in shallow water when it's raining, the guys, they'll clobber it, especially like a chartreuse or yellow or white or bubblegum colored floating worm. It's probably my favorite bait to throw on a rainy day like that. But they start to have this transition. It's like you're not going to catch many when that water temperature's like that, like on the spinnerbait and the chatterbait. That's when it's a little bit more cooler. Now, after it warms up in that 65 to 70 degree range, which is normally like in April or May, depending upon where you're at, this is when you want to pull out your top water on a rainy day. Walking top waters, chuggers, poppers, buzz baits, prop baits, anything like that. Water temperature from 65 to 70 degrees when it's raining is just the best time that you ever want to fish top waters for sure. Now, in the summertime of the year, this is a little bit different. When you've got rain in the summertime, it sort of acts like the same deal as the wintertime. The fish do not move up shallow with that rain, or they don't change positions within the rain. So let's say you're fishing late June, early July into August or something like that, and the lake you're fishing, let's say, you've got boat docks in it, or maybe you've got some deep points. Let's say there's a bass living in a brush pile and 20 foot of water off a point. And then a little front comes through and it starts raining that day in June, July, or August. Those fish are not going to swim out of that point, out of that brush pile up on the bank for you to catch them shallow. They stay right there. If there's a fish underneath the boat dock there, he's not going to swim out from underneath that boat dock, to go chase something. He's going to stay under that boat dock. So when I'm fishing in the summertime of the year and it rains, I don't pay any attention to it. Now, I might occasionally put on like a popper or something early in the morning and, fish if it's raining along like a riprap bank or something like that. But those are normally like the bass that are living shallow anyway. They're up there chasing perch and feeding on perch. Not that big of a deal. Rain simply does not have that big of an impact for summer bass and into early fall. But again, there's another window that comes about in the fall time of the year when that water temperature starts to get down in that same range as it was in the spring, between like 55, specifically 55 to 65 degrees in the fall. This is another time of year that the rain has a big impact on fish. So if I'm fishing, say, the end of October or November and it starts raining, I'm putting the spinnerbait back on, I'm putting a glide bait on, I'm putting a swim bait on, I'm putting a buzz bait on, I'm putting the same type of lures on that I fished in the springtime of the year, except maybe they're a little smaller. In the springtime of the year when it's raining, I want the big bait, the big giant spinner baits. But like the spinner bait I'll throw in the fall time of the year will be a smaller one, like that little Megabass SD3 ripping spinner bait. Throw it parallel with some bluff banks in low light condition when it's raining over clear water. Again, the walking top water, something like that. Just any type of smaller moving bait is really going to work good in the fall time of the year. So that's sort of the transition that you have. Now, a couple different things you need to remember here, winding it up. Number one is like the time that it's been raining has a lot to do with it. So let's say, for example, you got a weather pattern where it's been sunny or partly cloudy. Front's coming through or coming in, and it starts raining. The first day that it starts raining, after it hasn't been raining, is going to be your best day. If you happen to get like some type of a system that comes in and stalls, and you've got this cloudy, rainy type condition day after day after day that just sort of hangs on, the fish actually turn off, and they don't use the rain to their advantage. A lot of times they'll move deeper and hunker down and not chase a lure if it's been cloudy and rainy for a long time. So that's one reality of it, which doesn't happen a lot. It happens occasionally. But the main thing that you need to take away from this video when you're talking about rain and how it hurts or helps fish. You have to correlate the water temperature and the water visibility. Now here's a simple way to do it. If you have on one end of the spectrum, let's say you got dirty water visibility of about 8 or 10 inches, and the water's cold, like in the 40s, and it's raining, worst case scenario, the rain is going to hurt you in that situation. It's just too low light. The water's too dirty, it's cold, the metabolism of the fish are cold. There's nothing beneficial about the rain. It's actually going to hurt you on the one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is if you have very clear, warm water, that's going to activate the fish, and everything else is in between there. So the water clarity in correlation with the water temperature a lot of times is going to dictate how much rain helps or hurts you. Ideally, let me give you the best case scenario for fishing in the rain when you want to get out there and fish in the rain. Excuse me. If you have water temperatures that are in the 60s or early 70s, something like that, and you have water visibility that is about at least 3 to 6 foot clarity, and it could be a windy day or a calm day, it doesn't really matter. That is the perfect scenario, that how rain activates the fish. And the wind has a lot to do with your specific technique. Let's say, for example, the water temperature is 70 degrees and it's completely slick out. Light rain, 70 degrees, perfect topwater deal. Perfect for topwater, perfect for floating worm, perfect for fluke, all that type of thing. If you get out there and again, you have a light to moderate rain, but the wind's blowing 15 or 20 miles an hour, pick up your big moving bait like your spinner bait or a chatter bait or a crank bait. That's going to activate those fish and make them bite a little bit better with that. But overall, guys, unless the water is dirty and cold, rain is always going to activate those fish and help you catch them more. So anyway, guys, and one other thing, you can get one of these into my tackle warehouse. This is a quick little plug. When you're fishing in the rain, guys, one of the things is you have got to have a good rain suit. There's nothing worse than fishing in the rain and getting wet with it. I have got wet. I've got my crotch and my arms wet pretty much my whole career until I started using that Simms Pro Dry rain gear. I got a pair last year, guys, and I've heard people talking about it for years. They say, if you don't want to get wet, get the Simms Pro Dry. I got a pair of them, guys, and I can sit in the boat and I can have rain coming down on me, sitting down in the boat. My crotch stays completely dry. My arms don't get wet. So I'll put that Simms Pro Dry rain gear link in the description, in this tackle warehouse link, and my tackle warehouse link. Just if you want to stay dry in the rain, get you that Pro Dry from Simms. It is the best suit out there. So anyway, Toba Talps, guys.